welcome back, everyone. We are finally here in the new year, 2025, which is crazy to think of. I think that Ian and I were going back and forth about what we wanted this episode to be and what we felt like was most appropriate for the time. And we ultimately decided on kind of speaking on reflections and, past experiences within this year, what we went through, our feelings, our thoughts. I think that it could be very relatable to many people, and it would just be beneficial to really speak on it. So I don't really know if you want to kind of start with
I think
how you felt your year went, and if there were any changes or things that caught you off guard.
I think this year was probably the most pivotal and important year that I've ever had in my life. I noticed, especially doing what I'm doing now, I was somebody who had a very false sense of grandeur and a sense of self that I think was masked by a lot of falsified perceptions and personas that I was putting on. I believed in what I was putting out to the public. I did. I actually genuinely believed in myself. And I'm noticing that I had to strip myself of everything last year that I identified as, things that I felt belonged to me for a long time, for many years, all different types of notions and ideologies and beliefs and different working systems that I had built up and cultivated over the years that all came crumbling down, taking me out by my knees. And it put me in a whole different trajectory. And I think last year, if I have any reflection to take away from it, I think it would be that 2024 was not my rejection year, it was my redirection year to set me up for where I am now.
Rejection is redirection.
Of course it is.
I love that.
And it put me into a sense of not external fulfillment, which is what I realized in my hedonistic kind of mentality and belief system. My whole life was based on external pleasure and factors. Mm-hmm. And now my entire being, my entire fulfillment, all of my abundance is completely internal, and it's shape-shifted all of the workings around me. So that's what happened last year.
That's deep.
That's what happened last year.
How did that feel for you to kind of go through these different areas of ultimately the unknown?
Painful. It was painful. And it was painful because I think, actually I know, and you and I have spoken about this with our nervous system, right? So the nervous system will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. And that feeling of being in the unknown and not knowing what's on the other side and all these different paradigms that can be created that you're too scared to create in that moment, we always slip back into our safety nets. And yes, my biggest issue that I've had my whole life was always having safety nets. And for the first time in my life of being in this place of the unknown where now I had zero money, I had no relationships, I had no sexual partners, I had very few friends that I can actually go and lean on. It was the first time in my life that I had nothing, but I had everything. And being in that unknown and knowing that now I can actually create and be, in my belief now, a divine creator, one that God has intended me to be, it's put me in a position to realize that that state of fear was probably the most important place for me to be, because on that opposite side of fear was grace and was love and compassion that I built for myself, and everything has become an absolute blessing out of that place of the unknown.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of what you're saying is ultimately, failure after failure or downfall after downfall within this last year. And I'm just curious, like in the moment, were there many times where you felt like you wanted to give up or
every time
fall back into bad habits?
It's such a good question.
Yeah, because I think
I wasn't expecting like an interview right now.
No, I'm being the interviewer.
I've never been asked questions like this on a podcast.
And also I feel like, at the end of the day, it's really easy to reflect on things and see the light in it when you're out of that struggle. But I'm curious of your sense of self and thought process through all of this.
Yeah. I just got super emotional.
Oh, you could get emotional.
Cute. Yeah, I think every time that something was taken from me, I would catch myself wanting to give up and slipping back into my old patterns as to why is this happening to me? Why me all over again? And that victim mindset is a mindset that, because of my past, is very comfortable to slip back into. And that feeling of familiarity of playing the victim and playing that woe is me card is something I'm very good at. And I know it's always in the back of my mind, and I have to be very aware of it. So when I went through the things that I went through, when I lost my job, lost a relationship, lost friends, lost this, lost that, I just kept wanting to give up over and over and over and over and over. And self-wallowing and self-pity and misery becomes a very easy tactic and tool for me to lean on. And I realized that everything I was putting out, I was getting back tenfold. So that state of fear, that state of grief, that state of misery that I was projecting out and constantly ruminating and speaking about, all my conversations were about how terrible I had it. I was getting nothing in return back except what I was putting out. And it took me meeting the right people at the exact right time, my mentor that I have now, and falling into just luck, where you and I started this at the right time that I needed it. Meeting my mentor, developing different friendships, getting rid of old friendships, developing new ideologies and belief systems. You realize that in those moments of wanting to give up, that those are the only places that you can actually grow in. So I realized that, and I just said this to you at the beginning of the podcast, something similar, but your growth is directly reflected upon how much weight and burden you're going to be willing to take.
Yeah.
And I realized that all of that weight on top of me is really what propelled me to wind up growing in that moment.
Now, I have another question.
Okay.
Do you believe in the statement that everything happens for a reason and whatever is meant to be will be? Based off of everything you experienced this year, since you've experienced so much change and so much, there's so many things that are different now within your life in terms of thoughts, ideologies.
Can I answer that with answering it differently?
You can answer it however you want.
So I believe that we are all destined to be something as our birthright. And my whole life, I felt a great sense of calling to something. It was to be in a sense of servitude, which is now in the position that I'm in now, to help and assist others. And whatever way that looks to other people, mine manifested in the way that it's in now. I do believe that when you are trying to achieve some level of greatness or evolve, you have to eliminate things that no longer serve you. And I believe that God will test you and keep putting the barriers and the walls up in front of you and make your dreams that you feel serve that version of yourself impossible to attain in order for you to realize that there's something greater on the other side of that unknown that I was in that already belongs to me. I just have to go through all of the hell in order to get there. So I don't believe that somebody is able to achieve greatness or achieve their goals without experiencing failure. Because in order for you to actually know what winning is, you have to experience what losing is first. Otherwise, you can't have one without the other.
And I want to piggyback off that because that's...
Can you? Yeah, can you?
That statement of, whatever's meant to be will be. You just have to weather the storm, but if it's meant for you, it'll come. I believe that there's a little bit of a twist to it because at times I think society can make it seem like you could just sit there and do nothing and, go about your everyday, whether it's engaging in your bad habits or continuing to do things that no longer serve you, and you're still just going to get whatever happens to you happens and whatever is meant will come your way. I don't necessarily believe in that to that degree. I think that what you said is you're going to be presented these barriers. You're going to be presented times that test you, trial and error, where you're going to have to fail multiple times and get up. But I think every option's presented to you, but it's whether you take that option and you allow for yourself to fight through the hard that will get you to the place that you're destined to be. I don't think that it's just going to come just, engaging in your norm. You have to step outside of it and you have to jump over those barriers. And a lot of the times I feel that what's portrayed online or with people engaging with one another is you hear it. That's the number one advice. If someone has a breakup, if someone's going through anything that's detrimental or devastating to them, if it was meant to be, it'll be. Whatever happens, happens. And that's always not necessarily true. And I don't know if that's the best advice to give someone. I think, you will always go through trial and error. I think you will always have to, battle with demons and fight through things to get to where you want to be. But we're always ever changing and evolving. And it's important to know that there's always different chapters and seasons of our life. And things aren't just going to come to you because they're meant for you. You have to put the work in.
Of course. And you're always going to you will always receive from whatever you believe in, whether it's God, the universe, the stars, cosmos, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. You will always receive what you are.
Yes.
So what you're putting out and the dynamic that you're showing to the public and the person that you are in private is all of the energy that's going to be reciprocated back to you.
Yes.
And you can want something as much as you want it. You can crave it, you can desire, you can love it, you can need it, you can obsess over it. It doesn't mean at the end of the day that you are going to obtain it or that it is deserving of you to have yet.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
What comes to mind when you're saying that is complacency.
Yeah.
There's so many people who can achieve such great success, many accolades, their desirable partner, whatever they would like. However, people get stuck in this rumination and complacency mindset where they could want it so bad in their head, but they don't put forth the action and pursue it for it to be a reality.
Correct.
And that's the biggest issue with that statement, because I do think things are meant for you, but you have to go and get it. It's not just going to come to you with you ruminating in your mind, with you overthinking and not pulling the trigger and be scared to leaving that job, scared of leaving that person, scared of moving to the new city. It's not going to happen if you don't do it. And you kind of have to listen to your gut and know this might be scary right now, but the unknown is a beautiful place, because think of it this way. You already know what's behind you and what's currently there. You don't know what's in front of you. So if you're unhappy in the moment and present place that you're in, take that leap, because you know right now nothing's serving you or satisfying you. So you might as well jump into a place where it could lead to fulfillment and it could lead to, this successful life, as opposed to staying in a place you already know isn't doing anything.
I would also like to add on to that, because we've all felt failure.
Yes,
we have all experienced heartache. Mm-hmm. We've all experienced what it feels like to be disappointed.
Yes.
And I believe that every regression in life is an opportunity to set up a progression in life. Mm-hmm. And because we always have experienced the inevitable inescapability of pain, it's the one thing about life that we will always have. Disappointment will always rear its ugly head. Failure will always rear its ugly head, no matter what we do, because we cannot always have the luck and the ability to obtain what it is that we desire immediately. The point that I'm making is we know what failure feels like. There's no reason to be scared of what's on the other side of that unknown, because we've already been in that unknown so many different times for so many different reasons. And what I've noticed, when we fall into that place of being in that unknown, of quitting a job, quitting a relationship, changing a state, doing this, doing that, something that we feel that we're being called to that serves the highest version of self, that we're scared to make that jump. We've already been in that position before, when we've been tested and we've felt a calling to something, or we felt a pull to leave something. So we've been in that unknown of not knowing what was going to be on the other side. So we've all experienced the unknown, and we've all made it out alive already. We've all made it out successful. Now, we might not be the best version of ourselves after the unknown that we want to be, because there's still work to be done.
Of course.
Which is where more of the evolvement and more the elimination takes place. But being in that unknown is not an unknown feeling.
Yes.
We're very known to being in the unknown because we've all been scared about doing something where we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And a lot of the times when we do it, we're happy with that outcome. We're more healed from that outcome.
Right.
So that's what I just wanted to add in. That feeling of the unknown is not an unknown.
Right.
It's just an unknown in that particular situation.
And think about the amount of times that you're so scared to make that move forward. However, when you do it, you really grow and blossom and become the person that you truly felt like in your gut you were meant to be. And then also think about when you've been complacent and how draining that is and dreadful, and how your brain seriously knows that this is not where I'm meant to be. And it's constantly trying to remind you and pull you into that unknown and that direction. Mm-hmm. Our brains can't help but fear the unknown. It's always going to happen. But being able to get past that, or maybe even feeling excited for that feeling, is something that's very imperative. I tell all my clients too, I don't expect change right away with them. I don't expect them to sit here and listen to, the psychoeducation I give them or the tools and knowledge that I have and say, hey, next week you're going to be able to do this. I always say to them, this is a non-judgment free zone. We are human beings. We are imperfect. And it is okay to fail and then do better next time, or fail 100 times and then do better the 50th. Because to me, as long as I'm that support system and you understand as a person, people are never, it's not linear. We're always going to evolve till the day we die. Yep. And understanding that concept and meeting someone where they're at and even seeing them go 0.5% in a better direction of their goals or where they want to be, in my eyes, is more efficient than expecting someone to change within a month and then them having to regress or lie or feel, intimidated by moving forward. Yeah. So, it's really making sure to not be judgmental through change with people, with friends, with family, and not expecting something that you wouldn't expect of yourself in terms of change. Because we all know it's difficult. We all know it's easy to fall back into bad habits. It's quite literally almost blinding.
I want to say something about change, and only because, and then I want to ask you something. But okay. So because of what I do with my career now, it's allowed me to develop a sense of personal accolade achievement. And the reason why that is because when I am with my clients, I celebrate the smallest of trivial and menial tasks. And those achievements could look like anything. It could look like somebody just moving socks from one side of the room to the other side of the room. It could look like someone taking a lipstick off the counter and putting it in their plastic holder. Right. And I celebrate them. And I celebrate them so emphatically to where I don't leave them any other option but to celebrate themselves. Amazing. And doing that for other people has allowed me to now do that even more for myself. But the point that I want to make is when you're talking about these little tasks and that 0.5% better, that 0.5 is your 100% for that, though. Exactly. And that's all of the effort that you put into that. Your 100% is your 0.5. Celebrate that as if it's the biggest thing that you've accomplished. Yeah. And that's such an important thing that I think people lack now, is the ability to celebrate themselves, because we've been conditioned to think that, well, this isn't a big deal, because we're in that constant state of comparison that we've spoken about. Anything that you do that's different from today than it was yesterday, whether it's a habit, whether it's a mindset, whether it's a new ritual or a new devotion, or just something new that you've implemented into your day, to want to be better or just want to be different is a huge accomplishment.
Right. And even I'm just thinking of something as simple as if you're constantly drinking soda or sugary drinks, you have one bottle of water for the day. Yep. Something even that small is moving in the direction of change.
And it needs to be celebrated. It needs to be celebrated. I'm big into having people journal their accomplishments down.
I am too. I love journaling for people. I think it's
so
really great.
Big.
It's really
reflecting
great
on your own personal accomplishments that you've now undertaken into your daily day is so important, because it reshifts and recalibrates your mindset to feel that gratitude towards self.
And your journal also becomes your therapist.
Oh, beyond.
You know, so when you're seeing a therapist or coach or whoever you are with, or if you're not seeing anyone, it gives you a space to be able to open up and not suppress those emotions
100%,
and the
100%.
feelings that come with it through being able to write it out and journal. So I love journaling. I think that it really makes improvements in people's lives.
So what about with you this year? Like, I know that you did some reading this year. I know you read a book that drastically impacted you.
I did.
I want to know what it was about this year because...
You know I went.
My relationship with you this year truthfully blossomed into what it is now.
Yeah.
And I really got to watch you as you did with me, and we got to watch each other, but I really got to watch you grow in so many different ways on such a deeply profound level that I don't think for people who don't know you,
they have no idea.
They have no idea.
They
but
don't.
I've really gotten to experience a complete paradigm shift of your entire life.
I know.
And
I know.
I would love to know what your biggest lesson that you've taken away from this year is.
So last night I sat down, and I'm very good at being that person of sort of, how do I say this? I'm able to put the past behind me and not really think about it moving forward. So I shut things off when they happen, no matter how dark, no matter how deep. If it's in the past, after I'm over it, like I don't even think about it. And it's almost like these events didn't even occur, which can sometimes not be the best thing, I find, because it's not that I invalidate the tough times and what happened to me, but I almost forget where I came from and the experiences that led me to where I am today and why I am who I am today and how this came about.
Yeah, it's big.
And it's, you know, one of my 2025 resolutions is going to be to journal more in terms of reflecting different experiences and tough times, whether it be the deepest, darkest, or the most positive. I think it's important for me. But when I sat down yesterday, I didn't really know as much as what was going to come out did, because I haven't thought about it.
Right.
I seriously have not conceptualized the amount of darkness and also triumph that I had. So it was like, you know, double-sided sword here.
Well, it's the alpha and the omega. You can't have the darkness without the triumph. You can't experience one without the other. There is no there is without it, there is not.
Of course, yeah.
So
and
what is that over there?
I journaled. So when I was thinking yesterday, I was like, what is one word to describe my year?
Okay.
And the word that I came up with was loss.
Okay.
I'm
interested.
Loss of friends and people that I thought were going to be in my life forever that broke me. Loss of myself and who I thought that I was and how I thought I was so healed, but realized I wasn't even to the degree of where I thought I was at. Loss of connections. I ended up moving out of the apartment that I lived in for a year. Loss of a dog.
Ace.
And for anyone who, you know, maybe follows me on Instagram or knows, I had a Frenchie for 8 months when I was living in my apartment. He was gifted to me. However, my schedule was just so demanding that I could not take care of him. There was so many days where I would be out from like, Ian even knows, like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night.
Yep.
It was constantly draining, and I almost felt like I was very unhappy and then taking it out on him. Not in an abusive way, but I just wasn't.
You weren't emotionally there.
I wasn't emotionally connected to it. So he ended up, I found him a great home with my best friend's aunt, and they have 2 children and a backyard and another dog. So he is living his best life and getting the attention that he deserves. But there was just so much loss in my life in 2024. Like, I remember just on numerous occasions crying hysterically on my bathroom floor, just pleading for everything to just stop hurting because I had some really bad relationship situations that when I look back on it, I can't even believe I allowed or welcomed into my life, because it completely went against my morals, who I am as a person.
Yeah, but, so you say that you can't even allow that you believe, but I feel like this is where that whole developing that sense of just self-compassion and grace, because you allowed things into your life the way that I have.
Right.
Because that fit that version of us. No matter what we thought about ourselves at the moment in time, no matter how healed we thought we were, we still allowed a certain level of abuse, neglect, or whatever happened to us to happen, because that served that version of us. And that was the only way that we knew to accept love or attention at the time. So
right. And I do think I want to say, because, you know, I don't just want to highlight the negative, but to end off within that segment of what I'm saying is I was really hopeless. At the time in February, I had applied for my top school where I wanted to go. Didn't think that I was getting in. I thought that, you know, within my job, I wasn't really where I wanted to be in terms of excelling professionally with myself. Just how I was relating to my work and the effort that I was putting in, it just all diminished. And it had a large portion of that had to do with the personal relationship that I had. I was really focused on that, and, you know, neglected a lot of my friends. And, you know, within all of that, though, I will say that I ended up gaining just a whole new version of myself in terms of happiness and confidence, and a little almost I was able to conceptualize the person that I wanted to be and become. And my vision became much clearer of what fulfilled me and where I wanted to go and the people I wanted to be around. So although all of that loss happened, it ultimately was baggage that led me to feel so much lighter today. And I am probably in the happiest place that I've ever been in. I have amazing, you know, friendships. The people that I thought were there for me, I ultimately found out were not the ones who were going to be long-term in my life. My job, I'm doing great at. I ended up getting into the school that I wanted to be at, which I'm at now. And there's just so much life now and so much positivity within everything. And I think that it was a whole entire life change. And, you know, a quote that I actually really do love that I wrote that I think is important for me to say is, character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. And I think that is the most accurate statement, being as you and I both kind of went through the ringer in 2024. It really dragged us around, dragged us out, tested us in multiple capacities. And to come out on the other side bigger, better, ready for change, and kind of, you know, exploring different career paths and people and options and experiences is just beautiful. And it's very important for everyone to know that although you could feel like your world is collapsing in front of you and it's one thing after the next, there really is light at the end of the tunnel if you want to make that change and if you put that 1% forward. And no matter if you're on the ground begging and pleading, you could still get up and stand on your 2 feet and be able to walk confidently, knowing that you went through all of this and you have so much more good and life to come ahead.
You know, I also you and I made the conscientious decision to change
We did,
our
yes.
life. And the thing is I want people to understand, and this is something that I tell all my clients, it amazes me how much for granted people take this one life that they get. And this life, this one shot, is the most amazing and beautiful thing that we'll ever get to experience. And it's filled...
It's a roller coaster.
It's filled with so much unknown and beautiful people and beautiful situations and beautiful scenarios, and even the dark times are the most beautiful of times. And if you don't like where you're at, stop and change course direction and burn the world that you're currently living in to the ground. Burn it down into ash, and from that ash, rise up and create a life. Doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you currently are. If you want a life that resonates with a version of yourself that you truly believe you are destined and divinely entitled to be, burn that world and create the world around you that resonates and vibrates at that frequency that you want to put out. There is no need to stay in this conditioned life where you're upset or you're sad or you're miserable or you're complacent or you're unfulfilled or you're just going through the motions. You should wake up happy, fulfilled, abundant, grateful, joyful, smiling every single day. And it doesn't matter if you're not making all the money in the world or you don't have the best relationship. It's about the relationship that you have with yourself and what you're putting out into the world that resonates with you.
Yes, and I just want to piggyback. It's not always going to be you being happy all day, every day. We are going to
It's fleeting.
Yes, they're fleeting emotions, and we are going to feel upset and sad and disappointed, and these are normal. However, learning to kind of go with wherever life takes us is very important. And there's a book that I read, which is called Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Change. And one of the main points of it that I read, in 2024 that I really took out of it was embracing impermanence.
Yeah.
And basically it's to accept that life is inherently uncertain and ever changing. So rather than resisting this, find beauty in it, embrace it. It can lead to peace and freedom by letting go of your need to control. And when you find that you need to control every aspect of your life, you're living in a false expectation that will only lead you disappointed and upset.
So I reestablished my faith with Christ this year.
Oh, I didn't even know
I know.
that.
No one knows. No one knows. And that was my original belief system when I tried to commit suicide, and I found God in Christ that night. And then I wound up pulling away, and I got involved in all these different beliefs and ideologies. I made my way back to where I felt at home.
Oh.
And one of the things that you're talking about, I consider now, it's calling the ability to surrender.
Yes.
So that whole non-attachment theory that you're speaking about, I call it surrendering to God, surrendering it to the universe, surrendering it to whatever you believe in, because ultimately nothing belongs to us at the end of the day.
Nothing.
Your entire life is completely impermanent. And one of my favorite quotes is, even the air that we inhale has to be exhaled at some point.
I love that.
So what's
That's
keeping us alive ultimately has to be let go of also.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful quote that I now live by, where I just will surrender to the simple fact that somebody is here. No matter why they're here, I am grateful for it. I am happy, but I also am with the understanding that this isn't going to be forever. And whether the forever is until the day I die, they die, or anything in between, I'm going to have to eventually let this go.
Anything that comes to my next point of living in the present.
Oh, yeah.
Not being caught up with any sort of regret of the past or fears of the future. Because we could spend all day in our mind cycling back to what happened in the past or the what ifs. But being able to live presently in the moment brings another layer of peace.
100%.
And not to sound morbid, but at the end of the day, we're all going to come to the end of the road. right? We all die. And it's being able to embrace the good, the bad, the
ugly,
the
the indifferent,
ugly,
the
the
agony, the ecstasy, all of it.
yeah. And think of a life where we just felt one emotion. It wouldn't be exhilarating. It wouldn't be fun. Being able to experience this roller coaster ride is what makes life so beautiful. So embrace all of it while also moving forward to be your best self, because we're not here forever and nothing's guaranteed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I'll get into my own personal experience after. But have you noticed that the more that you've gone down this journey, that people have begun to judge you a little more? Do you feel more misunderstood now with understanding yourself than you've ever been before?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
I feel that a lot of my friends and people I have around me who are close to me really understand me, and they allow me to be me.
Yeah.
And they know that, it's so funny because my friends at some point if we, ever do go out or we're in the midst of other people, we'll be in a crowd and I'll end up like talking to some random person for like 45 minutes about their life. And I always end up being like that outside therapist when we go out.
I feel that.
And they're always like, here Maddie goes again. And people just, attract to me and vice versa, of just being able to have these deep conversations. And my friends know me for having deep conversations and being this person. Even with me not going out as much or not drinking, I could still hang out with my friends without, thank you, without like having to be in that bar or club scene. There are other things that we like to do. A lot of my friends take fitness very seriously and like to work out or would go hike or do things of that sort, or will grab lunch. So I don't feel like I'm not heard or that people don't understand me. If anything, it's only fostered deeper relationships with the people who have been in my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I'm very fortunate. I wouldn't say that that's the same for everyone. I think people
Not the same for me.
Yeah.
Tell you that
And
right
I was
now.
just going to say, what is your experience?
I think the more that I've been doing what I consider God's work, the more I've wound up alienating myself. Not purposely, but I've realized this year, one of my biggest lessons that I've personally taken away, people that I thought would be with me,
Yeah, it's a tough
they were with a
one.
version of me.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 friends follow me for the last 12 years of my life, and those are my friends. I've noticed that there's 1,000 versions of me that float around,
Same.
and somehow, some way, it's become my doing and my fault to be held accountable for the version that they've created based off of their own perception of me in their own mind. And I said this to you the other day, that I've realized that my words are only as valuable as they are agreeable. And what I've taken away from last year was, as I've been on this own journey of doing what I'm doing now, and I've decided to fully live in my authentic self, which is a lot of good and a lot of bad, and I embrace all aspects and sides of myself. I've realized that going down that path of authenticity has also had me going down a path of being a mirror to others, and a lot of my good or bad is a mirror back at other people. And I've noticed that I reflect a lot of stuff about others back at them that they don't like, that they're not comfortable with, that they've been running from. And a lot of people throw stones that live in a glass house. And it's isolated me severely now going into this new year, which I wouldn't have it any other way, because I've realized who really is there for Ian, who really accepts Ian, who genuinely loves Ian, and who Ian genuinely has like a connection to at the end of the day. And that's one of the things that I took away from last year, was the amount of people collecting I would do, regardless if my circle was small. I would always take in strays from the outside. And I think now, with the route that I've gone down, I think I'm okay not collecting anymore and completely being on my own, and whoever is going to choose to follow along with that path, like you, because I know you're never going anywhere, you're stuck here, is going to be with me now for the long haul or not at all.
And something I really want to say to that point is I feel that people allow for the bad to outshine the good.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone needs to know that you need to give people room to grow. Despite any actions or situations that have happened in the past, if someone is here presently wanting to move forward in a different light, wanting to make change and do better and do things that are going to be beneficial for themselves and everyone else around them, and really morally being good, there's no reason to sit and judge, past behaviors. And I find that a lot of the times, this is what happens. People will label a person and think that this is them forever. They're never going to change.
That's a good point.
He or she did this 10 years ago. He's still that jerk, or, she's still the one who cheated. And you need to allow space and understanding that, again, there's going to be different seasons of different people's lives. And just like you change and you want that acceptance from someone else, be that person to accept another person with their flaws and their mistakes
100%.
And allow an open mind and really let the actions follow.
That's really well said.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
There is 12 chapters this year, with 365 days to write.
Yeah, we're
a whole
on
new story.
chapter 1.
So,
oh my God, and it's the 18th. 18's my favorite number.
I love that.
I didn't even connect that.
And
It means a lot to me.
What I want people to take away from this is that, and I've said this a bunch of times, we are all the architects of our own reality. We all hold the pen to create our own story, our own narrative, to write a whole new outline of our own life, to create a whole new dialogue, to create a whole new working system that resonates with us. And it's never going to be too late to start. I've started much later in life than most. I know you're still a lot younger than I am. You've started now. So what could you say to somebody who's struggling to take that pen and write a new chapter in their life? And how can they listen to this, and what can they take away that they can maybe start doing differently?
I think maybe being able to sit with yourself, journal, and really see what fulfills you and what brings you that joy and what's draining you and bringing you down. If you find that you're complacent and you just need to move somewhere else and you're itching but don't know what to do, take that leap forward in a different direction. Like we said earlier, you already know how your past has been, and you already know what's going on in your present. If these things are not working for you, you need to try a different route. And the unknown, yes, as scary as it is, it can lead to a beautiful place and beautiful things. And being able to embrace that and cultivate compassion and kindness, live in the present, and understand ultimately that we are always going to be evolving. It's inevitable. And just finding your true self of where you feel the most fulfilled is the most important thing.
That unknown is a blank canvas.
It is. And you could draw whatever you want on it. Make it fun. Make it exciting. Think of it in a way of, okay, maybe I don't know this, but I know I'm not happy here. So I'm going to just go forward because nothing's worse than being here or there. And that's how you have to think of it. It's scary.
I got nothing else.
I don't either, but happy 2025.
Yeah, for real.
I'm excited.
I'm so amped for this year.
I think it's going to be a good year.
I am so excited for what this year is already bringing. So
I agree.
We're going to see what happens.
Yep.
All right.
Definitely. Awesome.
See ya.